Well, welcome everybody. I'm broadcasting, as I said, from Louisville, Kentucky, and today I'm going to talk about designing green and healthy built environments with natural wood flooring. I have to tell you that in introducing myself, I've been in the wood business for 34 years. I spent 22 years at a sawmill, high-end sawmill. I've been dealing with high-end hardwoods for all that time, and I've sold millions during my selling time. I sold millions of board feet of high-end timber. And the 10 years before, in the before times, before COVID hit, I traveled the world talking to architects and designers about using wood, specifically hardwood, in biophilic design in a variety of spaces. And then COVID hit, and like many other people, I was sequestered here at my home, and along the way, I came across this company, Mafi Floors, and encountering them, my whole thinking about wood flooring was changed, because I've sold wood to high-end flooring manufacturers, but I never gave any thought to the finishes, because I've been asked about that over the years, and finishing is not my area of expertise. I do know wood, but I don't know finishes. So I came across this company in Austria that is producing natural wood flooring with no artificial coatings at all. It's all natural oiled wood flooring. And anyway, as things happen in life, I wound up talking with their chief of sustainability, Walter Lowry, and we've developed this friendship, virtual friendship. We haven't seen each other in person yet, but anyway, I'm really pleased to be offering their information to you today in this training, which is approved by the GBCI. And I just run through quickly what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about the myriad health benefits of natural wood in flooring, cladding, and ceilings in the built environment. We're going to talk about specifying natural wood in biophilic design, and the importance of that really can't be overstated. We'll talk about how natural wood improves indoor air quality, health, sleep, stress reduction. We're going to talk about sustainability. Of course, you can't get to green building without talking about sustainability and carbon sequestration and all of the uses of wood to maintain the health of our biodiverse forests. So with that, I'm going to close off my camera, because none of this is about me. It's about the pictures I'm going to show you. So we're also going to talk about distinctive beauty of natural wood in all of these various facilities. We're going to talk about the importance of specifying fully certified natural wood flooring and walls and ceilings. And we'll talk about greenwashing a little bit. We'll talk about the stability of cross-laminated, balanced, engineered natural wood flooring, especially for radiant heat application and in wet areas. We'll talk about the benefits of a vertically integrated, holistic manufacturing facility that uses no harmful chemicals and results in this carbon negative natural wood flooring. Leaves the factory arriving anywhere in the world at least carbon neutral, if not carbon negative. So the learning objectives today, if I do my job properly, you'll understand the role of natural wood in biophilic design and its beneficial effect on the health and welfare of those who occupy our built spaces. We're going to talk about the importance of environmental certifications. You'll be able to speak a bit more on a more educated level about those. And we'll talk about how natural wood floors can be easily maintained without the use of plastic finishes that can contain hazardous chemicals. You'll be able to explain how natural wood flooring sequesters carbon for generations to come. And that, well, it sequesters and yet holds the carbon too. I found out recently that sequestering is the action, and then holding is what a finished wood product does. It holds that carbon. But you'll be able to explain the basics of wood movement and how appropriate installation and humidity control determine the lifespan of natural wood flooring, cladding, and ceilings. So, Talking about biophilic design in interior environments, I think that the key to my various presentations to various audiences seriously around the world. I think one year I was fortunate enough to circumnavigate the globe 3 times. But the biophilic design is important because in our interior environments, we spend about 90% of our time indoors. So looking at how we design our built spaces is really important. So we do spend most of our time in work, home, restaurants, houses of worship, and a variety of other interior spaces. But biophilic design considered for these places can really help satisfy our yearning as humans to connect with nature. Frank Lloyd Wright once said, wood is the most humanly intimate of all materials. So the notion of biophilic design, which is probably not alien to anybody in the audience, is to reflect our natural yearning on a cellular level to connect with nature. So I've asked the question in my presentations for that decade I traveled. I asked the audience if somebody in the audience wants to stand up and offer a cogent argument against the notion that we just feel better in wood-clad spaces. Maybe hard to articulate, quantify, but please tell me why you don't feel good in a wood-clad space. And nobody in the more than 8,000 architects and designers I've talked to in the last decade plus 2 years of doing webinars, nobody has mounted an argument against that notion. So for me, I had to reflect on this resonance we have with wood-clad spaces and come up with a thesis on why that is that we resonate with wood-clad spaces, and that's because humans and trees are alike in very significant ways. One, we are both about 60% water. We are both about 16% carbon. We both have a peak life expectancy of about 80 years. I want to point out here that, yes, humans can live longer than 80 years. There are trees that have stood in a forest for hundreds of years. But arguably, for both humans and trees, there is a peak life point. And while some trees mature, species of trees mature at 70 years, and for some humans in some, Himalayan environments, they may peak out at 90 or something. A good rule of thumb is about 80 years. A tree's job in the biosphere is to absorb carbon. And once it's fully matured, around 80 years, it will stop absorbing and now start leaching that carbon back into the atmosphere. And in humans, yes, I aspire to live longer than 80 years, but I would have to admit that I'm most likely going to be less productive after 80 years. I'll be more susceptible to disease or injury, as trees are more susceptible then to infestation by bugs and being subject to real intense and meteorological stressors, we'll put it that way. But we live in symbiosis with trees. The very definition of symbiosis is that we exhale CO2, trees inhale that CO2, clean the air that we breathe, and giving us back oxygen in return. So specifying wood in biophilic design reflects this human relationship with trees on a cellular level. We may not even be aware of it, but we are resonating with trees. Now, stress in our lives, and we all know that right now stress is at a high we've probably never seen before because of the pandemic, and now there's all this cultural and social unrest. But if those stressors manifest themselves physically in our bodies, and if you go to a doctor in Japan with these maladies that have come from stress, they are likely to prescribe what's known as forest bathing. It's Shinrin-Ryoku in Japan. Apologies to those who do actually speak Japanese, but it's basically forest bathing, which is go spend a couple of hours of thoughtful time in the forest. And they have found that the sympathetic nervous system actually does slow down and relax in a forest environment because the trees, we resonate with the trees, and we're finding solace in the trees. And there have been myriad studies done in Japan about this notion over the last decade, and they've come up with this data that does speak to this issue. And in carbon sequestration, really timber holds the key to taking on embodied carbon in 2022. Using more timber in construction is essential if we want to reduce embodied emissions, as it displaces carbon-intensive materials. And it acts as a form of carbon capture and storage, with nearly a ton of CO2 captured for every cubic meter of timber used. So also, in terms of environmental stewardship and human health, environmental stewardship means that we need to design with multiple species of sustainable wood in order to maintain the biodiversity of our forests. So we don't want to just specify, I mean, all forests are mixed species, and we want to use those mixed species in all of our designs rather than saying, I'm only into, let's say, white oak or walnut. That's counterproductive to the long-term health of the forests. So we don't want to go into a forest and only take out specified species. We want to pull from that forest, in terms of our responsible stewardship, we want to pull the mature trees out that have done their job, and in pulling them out and using them for timber applications, we have now opened the canopy of that forest, allowing sunlight and rain to reach the forest floor. Where those trees have been dutifully seeding the forest floor, those seedlings just need light and rain. So there's always a constant replenishment of the forest inventory. You can use Google Earth to travel over, for example, the eastern United States and major parts of Europe, and you'll see healthy forests. You won't see big clear cuts of, especially hardwood forests, but this is because we as a society have taken into our psyches the notion of sustainable forestry, and that's what that means. Take out those mature trees, capture all the carbon. For example, a kiln-dried hardwood board is 50%, its weight is 50% carbon, which will be stored for the life of that product, unless it were to burn. So what we are talking about in terms of looking at that tree and saying it's mature, it's been sequestering carbon for 80 years, we want to put it into our spaces. So when we put it in our interior spaces, our health and well-being actually benefits from that in reducing stress levels. Natural wood is hypoallergenic, and it's keeping our air clean and our bodies healthy, and it's truly sustainable and recyclable. So in your specifications, we want to avoid greenwashing, because greenwashing comes up in a less transparent certification. So you have to understand that certifications are really important, and yet not all certifications are the same. So certifications by nature, they're expensive, they require audits and extensive paperwork and follow-up. Yet through this process of certification, you, the design community, can assure your clients that the natural wood products in their project are truly green. They're free of any chemicals. This is red list chemicals. They're produced from sustainable lumber sources in a vertically integrated, as I said, holistic manufacturing environment that uses renewable energy and that is a safe and healthy place for employees to work. So in the terms of these certifications, I think that the most stringent of them, which comes from the Living Futures Institute, is the Living Product Challenge certification. And that is a certification with the most stringent requirements or guidelines to get this certification. And it talks about the sustainability of the product that you're using, the non-toxic nature of it, and that it's produced in this holistic environment. So we're talking about wood now that has been certified by the Living Product Challenge. I'll get into a little bit more depth about that later in the presentation, but it confirms that production power comes from renewable resources, renewable sources, and that the company is dedicated to responsible stewardship of the wood resource. The flooring uses only red list free ingredients, reducing and recycling to a zero waste policy, providing employees a happy, healthy workplace and great benefits. So this process does create a full platform that architects can use for total project transparency in interior products industry-wide. So with that, knowing that you want to have this certification as part of your spec, when you've seen this presentation, I think you'd be more likely, if you do specify products for interior spaces, you'll want to protect that spec, because I know that the value engineering process is critical to any project, but since wood is generally one of the last components to that project, it's often subjected to a lot of scrutiny in the value engineering process. Can we save some money? But you have to remember that the wood part of your project, the flooring, it's the largest piece of furniture in the project. And to suddenly value engineer this wonderful material out of the project because you've come up with something, or somebody has presented to you a product that is the same as or similar to real natural wood, yet might be more inexpensive. And I think that what's really important is that the client and the designer architect has to commit. You together as a team, you have to commit to using the best natural non-chemical certified material that you can. And it may mean a lot of struggle to get through that VE process, but here's my theory about this. Like, I had a theory about why we resonate with wood spaces and our relationship to trees, but my theory about value versus investment, and it's not to say pay now or pay later, it's just what you are getting for the money that you spend on that project. So this seems like I'm going way off the reservation here, but this to me is an important point. When I was a kid, I had a great uncle who out in New Mexico on his ranch had a Rolls Royce. I was 10, which I thought was, and I thought that the fact that my great uncle had a Rolls Royce on a ranch was pretty amazing. I mean, my older self now goes, where did he get that fixed? But point is, I rode in this Rolls Royce on the ranch, and I was struck by just how amazingly elegant it was and how quiet it was and all of that, right? So I set, one of my aspirations in life was to one day own a Rolls Royce. I do not own this Rolls Royce, and I've never come close to owning a Rolls Royce. But to me, in the world of automotive elegance, this is it, right? So if I want to go to a Rolls Royce, I have money, I think I have the money to buy a Rolls Royce, and I go to the Rolls Royce dealer, I will not, ask him, how much does this cost? And when he says $500 million, $500,000, I'm not at that point going to say, well, let's value engineer this. Can we take out the calf leather seats? Maybe that big sound system? What, this engine has 12 cylinders? I only need 4. I just want it to go down the street to the post office and back. I just want to have the look of elegance without it being real. Well, I would never do that. I would find out how much it costs, $500,000, which I now know is a starting point for Rolls Royces. I would come back when I have $500,000, and I would give it to the nice dealer, and I would drive away in my nice Rolls Royce. So I mean, that's a hyperbolic example of this, but I think that it's important to keep that in mind when you want the outcome to be truly non-toxic and truly beautiful and cleaning the air and all of that. Don't fall prey to imitators that may pretend to be equal to natural wood floors. So once we've installed or specified natural wood, we can start to create this biophilic environment that's really welcoming. This is a restaurant space where people are going to just feel better. They're just going to feel happier, less stress in their lives. They're going to visit with friends, have a drink, have a cup of coffee or tea. And natural wood flooring works in these high traffic areas like restaurants. And here's a beautiful biophilically designed restaurant with natural wood floors and natural wood tables. And in this context, we have to define what natural is. Natural wood is, of course, by definition, it's natural. It's a product of nature. But when we're talking about it, we're talking about having no finish on it and no chemicals in it. And coating natural wood with plastics is more for surface protection than material protection. And it actually, this is what I learned a couple of years ago, having never given it thought about finishes, is that you take natural wood, you cover it with plastic, you have now rendered that wood floor or wall or ceiling a toxic waste because it's still covered with plastic. So natural wood floors, when they're just plant-based oil finished, they're going to essentially breathe with the environment. And you know, wood covered in plastic is just plastic supported by wood, and you really want to get rid of that in your interior spaces, because this natural wood won't off-gas any harmful chemicals. And in terms of maintenance, just like humans, wood floors need water and soap for healthy maintenance. So a lot of what you would normally ascribe as damage to the wood can just be brought back to its original state with using warm water and soap. It's like a sponge. If it's dented, if you give it a little water, it'll come back. And it's really easy to maintain with natural plant-based oils. And it's also got great slip resistance, and it's will stay for generations if well cared for. You don't want to neglect it, but you do want to care for it. And it can be used in almost any application. So when we talk about slip resistance, natural wood floors have been carefully checked against European standards, which are the highest standards. And that ranges from what they call R9, which is sure-footed up to an incline of 3 to 9%, but up to R13, which is sure-footed on inclines of over 35%. So you'll find that with natural wood floor, your slip resistance is really increased. And as I show you these applications in restaurants, I want to also caution you that, for example, in this particular photograph, this is all clear lumber, clear flooring. And these days, trying to aspire to all clear matching boards, one next to the other, I think that's, I don't want to say fool's errand, but I can't think of another term. It will be fruitless enterprise, because you want your flooring to look like it came from trees, and trees have knots because trees have branches. So I'm much more aligned with this type of floor in a restaurant where the knots, which are real character, are really sort of celebrated in this floor. Here's another floor where the character, which used to be called defect 20 years ago, it's now called character. I think that's important to leave in the space. So here's some examples of natural wood being used in flooring and walls and ceilings. This is the entrance to an apartment house, a high-end apartment house, but this is all natural walnut. You can see that all the knots and all of the character there, including the white sapwood. And this is just already welcoming people into the apartment house. And it's just a gorgeous use of natural wood in a wall application. Here we're back to a commercial application. This is a small espresso bar in this commercial space, and they've done a great job of using it on the walls and the ceilings as well. Here's another commercial application, and it's even offset by stark white walls that have some painting on them, but that contrast is really wonderful for the person who's currently in that space and looking at examples of, let's say, iPhones or computers or whatever. This is an office meeting space, workspace, an architecture firm in New York. And what the participants in that meeting or working on their computer probably don't consciously recognize is that they're more focused and they just feel better in that space. In educational spaces, wood-clad environments have proven themselves to offer greater focus and information retention to those studying in those spaces. Another great example of using the natural character of the wood in a commercial space. Another look at that same space. This is a showroom. And I think this is really an interesting development, because with modern technology, we can now create sort of any look we want. And this is natural wood flooring that's been laser etched to give it character. And you can even use catchphrases from your business in this laser etched material. And I think for this wine shop, this is a brilliant use of that technology. And if, for example, somebody spilled some of that red wine on that floor, it would be easily cleaned with soap and water. So it's very flexible. And this is just to reemphasize that point that when you coat floors with plastic, they're just no longer natural wood floors. They're plastic supported by wood. Here's a great domestic or residential application. The contractor in this case actually routed out the surface of that flooring to a depth of that glass covering there to make that all a seamless surface. But I think it's a great use of glass to protect the wood floor from igniting from sparks in that fireplace. And we'll talk about this as we go along, but this is a wood-clad bedroom is a far better bedroom for you to sleep in. And I'll show you an example of some pine in a bedroom further down the line here. But a study space, workspace, now as we're all working from home, many of us are working from home, having wood in your environment, even that wood floor against stark concrete walls, it's really important to your focus. And when you install a natural wood floor, it immediately starts to improve the quality of your inside air, because it's hypoallergenic and it's actually taking into itself, rather than bouncing off, natural allergens that may fall to the floor, and then you just clean it with a mop and water, and all those allergens will disappear. Now, also with this new technology, we can reimagine how floors look and feel. And this is all laser etched natural wood flooring. This is its use in a spa, but there's actually this very subtle texture to the floor. So if you're walking on it in bare feet, you'll feel more connected to the wood floor. I just think it's incredibly beautiful myself. And I did not know before a couple of years ago that you could do this with natural wood floors. And here's that same flooring in a wall application in a high-end showroom for high-end purses, it looks like. But this will give the depth of feeling to that room. And in terms of slip resistance and beauty, you can get these other textures too that will help you, especially in our interior environments where we might likely be in bare feet or in stocking feet. We want to feel the floor under us. This is in a wall application. This is at a spa. And the slip resistance that comes with natural wood flooring is especially important in spas, bathrooms, kitchens, and wet areas. So this is the entranceway to a spa. And here it is also in the spa. You're walking bare feet there, and water is not going to damage this because actually the natural wood floor wants water, and you can just mop it up. But here's to me, a really interesting use of laser etching to create the illusion that this is actually different colors of paints or something. This is actually all laser etched. And this floor in a spa environment, it becomes body temperature and therefore it's not cold, and it's also slip resistant. So as you can see, the wood grain in that floor is still visible through that laser etching to give it a particular look. And all the floors, all of these natural floors are custom. So you can get with the designers at this company that I cannot mention again till the end of the presentation, but you can design this floor to look just the way you want, knowing it has all these benefits as well.
Hey, Criswell.
Another great example. Yes.
Couple of questions on this.
Sure.
What is the dimensional stability and expansion characteristics? Say, for example, if it was compared to white oak.
That's a good question, and I'll get into this a little bit later, but not to pass by the question. It's a great question as you look at these applications. This particular floor is all wood, but it's a 3-layered cross-laminated board. You'll have 2 balancing boards of whatever hardwood, white oak, walnut, and then you slice a face board, and then the bottom board, which is the balancing board of the same species, and going crossways in it is sustainable pine, so that it will take radiant heat and it'll take water from the bottom and then the top and stay stable. So all wood wants to move, and especially natural wood, because it's not covered in plastic, will move more than others. But this 3-layered or 3-tiered construction will allow it to lay very, very stable and adjust to various humidity levels. It's important with any wood floor, even those covered with some sort of artificial finish. You want to control the environment, the humidity in the environment, because wood will take on and shed moisture really for the length of its useful life. But having said that, somebody walking in a bathroom with this laser etched floor, it's not going to damage the floor, and it's not going to curl or warp or cup. And I hope that answers that question, but I'll get to that slide in more depth later. Is there another question, Jen?
Nope, that was it. I think there was a concern, would wide planks end up with gaps in the winter as it contracts?
Right, and that is not the case. And I know that white oak, especially in its cortisone form, is very resistant to that expansion and contraction, which happens with fluctuations in the what we call the equilibrium moisture content. And this will be a very balanced product in that environment. So you'll see it more and more in bathrooms. Here's another bathroom with a herringbone pattern. And this, ironically, is a white oak 3-tiered construction floor. Now, this may be a little out there for some people from the design community, but I think it's a real interesting notion of what you can do. This is in a showroom, but this is all laser etched flooring. You can see that it's the same board. It's just the etching that creates this look. There it is in the kitchen, where it's prone to be a lot of water or liquids, spillage, whatever. Kids spilling their milk. We have 2 grandsons who were just here yesterday, and that was our job all day long, was to keep them from spilling stuff on our nice furniture. We love them, but they're 4 and 7. So, any of you who have children or grandchildren of that age, you know what a task that is. Now in residential and all of these other applications, natural wood floor can be infused with this natural pigment, plant-based pigment in a non-toxic resin to really give spectacular looks. And I'll show you more of that. Here's a residential space where you're looking to the outside and you're surrounded by wood, and you'll sleep better in that space too. Another example of natural wood in multiple forms of usage in that house. This is in a design studio, and this is using end grain flooring, which is the end grain of boards. I'll show you a close-up of that. Here's a residential setting where a former attic space was converted to having extended kitchen operation there. This is in an office space that offers people a real sense of calm during their stressful day. And this Swiss stone pine example is one where this is a wood bed in a wood-clad space, and there have been blind study tests done to produce empirical data showing that people who sleep in a wood-clad environment on a real wood bed actually have more restful sleep through the night. And you could take the same people into another room that's not surrounded by wood and is on an artificial bed, artificial material bed, and they'll find that their sleep is significantly less peaceful and less restful. So here's an example in a bathroom again of this natural wood flooring. This is in a hotel meeting space. This is in a residential space where, you know, it's really open to the environment and is a beautiful use of this product. Here you can see that laser etched flooring in this kitchen in a lodge. You can see that window that opens to the outside there. And it's just a great space to be able to work in. In hotels, let me show you some of these examples of hotels. This is a beautiful hotel example where they've maximized the use of timber. And this is a laser etched chevron pattern that I'll talk about in more detail as we go along. But all of this is natural wood, plant-based oil infused wall and flooring and ceiling material. And there were no artificial stains used in this coloration, the gray coloration, and that's all natural pigments. Another example of hospitality use of natural wood flooring. And even in houses of worship, this is end grain flooring in a house of worship. This is looking back the other direction to natural wood cladding on the choir balcony. Here it is coming down the stairs, and this is literally the ends of 2x2 board pieces of wood, and then those become the surface area of the flooring. Even in government buildings, this is natural wood floor in a government building in Austria, and this is before the furniture comes in. This is with the furniture. And those in these meetings will, as I've said before, not recognize that they're focusing more on the meeting, but they are. They're feeling less stress and they're more attentive to what's going on. So now, coming back to the question about the three-layered construction, these are balancing thicknesses of boards on the top and the bottom layer, and that's a cross-grained pine in between to give that movement little chance to cause gaps and warping and cupping. Closer look at that. There's the tongue part of this tongue and groove flooring, and there's the groove. There's another example of that. And this floor does not, parenthetically, have to be glued down. It can actually be pulled back up and placed in another environment. So the installation is much more flexible. But when we talk about green building and green manufacturing, as I've said, you want to have an environment for the people who work there to feel better. They get good benefits and they're well cared for. And this is a toxic-free environment. And these are some of the real people producing natural wood flooring. And by the time this 1 square foot of this product is produced by these people, 88 hands will have been used to produce this 1 square foot of flooring. This is all custom done. This is all hand produced with the help of machinery, but they're hands on this product from beginning to end. And in a vertically integrated, sustainable, Living Products Challenge certified environment, you want to go all the way to zero waste. So wood waste is then, because there will always be some wood waste, it's then rendered into wood pellets that heat the storage facilities, the offices, and the production plant, because the one product that is totally certified by the Living Products Challenge finds itself in Austria, which has cold winters, so that those wood pellets become very important. So this is a holistic manufacturing facility. So now I'm just going to go, as my time ticks away for me here, I want to show you some varied looks and applications. This is beautiful natural wood floor against a stone fireplace. These are some of the patterns that you can have done, and this is all constructed in parquet panels that are then laid down individually as a constructed panel. This is some of that natural cracking in wood that's filled with natural pigments and non-toxic resins. We're celebrating those natural characteristics of wood. And here's an example of something spilling, two things spilling on a natural wood floor, and how they'll be able to be cleaned up just with water and a mop. There's some more white oak in a natural wood setting. Another look at a panel that can be laid down as a wall. It could be mounted on a wall, but it can also be laid down as a flooring pattern. Here's this laser etched chevron pattern that I showed you in the hotels. And these are the same boards, but just with this laser etched line to create the illusion of these being individually cut like herringbone pieces of wood. So you can get a more consistent look this way, instead of fragmenting the pieces from various piles of lumber. So this is giving you a cleaner sense of that. But here's a great biophilic example. The exterior is wood and the interior is also wood. You can use natural wood floors in yacht applications. And if one talks about moist environments, you don't get much moister than a yacht. And this gives this space real elegance, and it's still offering the people who are riding in that yacht this sense of calm. And I just love looking at these pictures every time I go through them. But it's also usable in gyms, and gyms tend to be sweaty places if people are doing what they're supposed to do in gyms. And so they have a lot of traffic in those facilities. Here it is in a wall application. Here it is being used in a high traffic, high humidity environment. And you can see that even with people dropping weights on it, those floors can be brought back to life very easily with warm water and soap. They can be re-oiled if it has to be cleaned a lot. It can be re-oiled with a natural oil that is a plant-based oil that is available on the market. And in healthcare environments, this is a stark sort of chiropractor's office that's offset by the wood in the floors. This is a dentist's office using natural pigments in those cracks in the wood. And I, for one, would like my dentist to feel calm, and this floor is going to make that dentist, he or she, feel much calmer when they're working on your teeth, and I think that's important. Here's a great example of a runway stage using natural pigments again to give a really vivid appearance, as you want people to be paying attention fully to what's going on the runway. So I want to get through in my summary here the points about certifications. I'll get through that, but we have to talk about why one would want to specify natural certified wood flooring. It's because it's certified after a very painstaking set of detailed and audited work. It's completely sustainable, and as a reminder, half its weight is stored carbon. It's free of plastics of any kind or off-gassing of any chemicals, and it improves your sense of well-being, reduces stress, hypoallergenic, as I've said. It connects all the occupants of the space to nature, not plastic. It lasts for generations and will add beauty and life to any space. It's easy to clean with mild soap and water, easy to repair and re-oil. It's stable in radiant heat application. And as you've seen, spas and bathrooms. And this modern technology actually allows you to create your unique design aesthetic. And it's a net carbon negative product, sometimes even after transportation around the world, because transportation's carbon emissions can be reduced by scale, right? You put a container of natural wood flooring on a ship with thousands of other containers, the emission cost of that is spread. Perfect. I'm just going to review real quickly the certifications. As I said, the Living Products Institute, which is the most stringent set of requirements, and that requires that you be red list free, which is in terms of the red list. If you're red list chemical free, then that's the highest of those standards. And it's one of the organizations that performs this test is the Materials Analytical Services, MAS. And in our case, that after going through that test, all of this company's products have been certified MAS, certified green. And getting that requirement is a lot of work. And then comes the declare statement. Really just has to be a transparent revelation of the products, the ingredients of your products, right? And so you could actually be producing gasoline and use a declare statement to say, yeah, our ingredients are petroleum and whatever else they add to it. So I'm at the point now where I can talk about the company that's sponsoring this. So these are the Mafi headquarters in Austria, and it's the only certified natural wood flooring manufacturer in the world that meets the Living Products Challenge standards and the other certification standards like MAS and the Declare statements. And it's a 3-generation majority owned, woman owned family business, has been in business for over 100 years. And here's the health product declaration. This is all available, by the way. Everything that I've been talking about is available in the Dropbox that you can link to after the session. And this basically is being very transparent about all of the aspects of the health product declaration. This is the Declare declaration, the Living Product Challenge. We aspire to complete all of those 20 requirements to get totally full LPC certification, but we are making great strides towards that every year. And this is telling you that it's LBC red list free, and it gives you all those standards. Again, this is all downloadable through the Dropbox. So I'm going to leave this up on the screen because if I can't answer all of your questions today, you can get in touch with me, Criswell Davis, at c.davis@mafi.com, or the sustainability chief for Mafi, who's in Silver Spring, Maryland, and that's Walter Lowry. And there's his phone number, and there's my phone number for questions about sustainability and installation. You would want to take those to Walter Lowry, but I will definitely be able to answer your questions online. And if you want samples, and many people did after my last webinar, I will bounce you in my recommendations to the Material Bank, which is another sort of certification to be able to get samples through Material Bank. They only really will send out samples of material that is sustainable. So all you have to do is go to the Material Bank website, just register, it's free, and then you can ask for samples, and they have them readily available. So anyway, with that, let me take another few minutes and answer some more questions if we can.
Okay, so we do have some folks that would like samples. Is today's events someplace we can request those?
Yeah, you can actually put it in your comments that you will hope leave for us, and I will pick those comments up and I will send you a link to Material Bank. If you're not already a member, you probably should be, with the increasing emphasis on biophilic design and sustainability. But you send them a request and they'll send you out a sample and specify. It's helpful to specify samples of which species, because there's a wide range of species. So put that in your comments and I'll get to those.
All right, folks, if you would like to have a sample, go ahead and type in the word sample. I'll get the email addresses over to Criswell and he can forward you to the website in order to get the Material Bank.
Yeah. Excellent.
Okay, so we're going to knock these out in 3 minutes.
I'm with you.
Okay, so the thickness of the floor with all 3 layers is about 1 inch. Is that correct?
No, it's about 3/4 of an inch.
3/4 of an inch. Good to know.
Yeah, which is sort of standard in American flooring.
Now, would you clarify one big topic? And that's a couple of questions here. It's a laminate. Is that correct? So it uses glue.
It does. That's a really good question, and I'm glad you brought it up because I forgot to mention this. That this is a non-toxic, basically white glue that laminates the 3 sections together, the 3 tiers, and yeah, there's no off-gassing from that. If you look at, for example, some flooring, lumber liquidators experienced this issue with some engineered floor that was here from China, and the adhesives were off-gassing formaldehyde at dangerous levels, and that caused them a lot of problems. But everything about this, the finished product, there is no toxic off-gassing of any kind.
Great. And there's no doubt that we all benefit from biophilic design. Are there some of the studies, like when you sleep on a true wood bed, you get you're more restful, those sort of studies? Is that in the Dropbox, or could you direct somebody to
put that in your notes? And if it's not in the material, it's in the Dropbox. It should be. I can link you to some of that information. And certainly Walter Lowry will be able to get that for you. But put that in there if you have questions about those studies about sleeping on a real wood bed in a wood-clad environment.
Okay, perfect. Now talk about, is everything assembled, sanded, infused, oiled off-site and then delivered, or is that done on-site?
No, it's done, because all these floors are custom. That is all done at the plant in Austria, so it will arrive on site, oiled and ready for installation. Excellent.
And so you mentioned just soap and water to clean. Is that an oil soap or just a mild soap?
It's an oil-based soap, and it's available through Mafi.com. There are probably alternates you can find, but if I were the consumer, or the designer, I would specify that their oil base has got a lanolin in it. It's plant-based, but it's got some lanolin in it. So it's just like putting a conditioner or skin cream on your hands after you've showered. It's going to give it that lanolin elasticity.
So with that said, you've got the contact information there. Definitely check out the Dropbox for downloads. And
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'll put myself back on the screen here just to say goodbye and thank you all for your attention and for answering the poll questions. And I'll look forward to any further questions you may have through the comments section. And I just hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Well, thank you, Criswell. Excellent job as always.